Okay, let's see. Well, this is going to be fun. I'm learning to use StreamYard and just spend about 5-10 minutes chatting to myself and not recording. So see where this goes and if I can do it again. So I'm very much a learner in this area. It's not my expertise. I chose, excuse me, I chose the silly title that I did, Pippy Longstocking. What did she really know? I think is the title, but I'm half staring at it out of screen, and I'm learning where to find things in StreamYard. So what I kind of said was, the topic and title comes from something that somebody said to me last week. In one of the connections that I have in a place that they call this little corner of the internet. She was mentioning Pippy Longstocking and how she knew that she could do something if she hadn't already done it. I kind of thought that was a humorous place to start because I have absolutely no clue what I am doing here. And in my introduction, I mentioned I'm in a lot of writing groups and been working on some of those things. So I had actually popped into, and I basically said, I'm going to talk to myself here and I'm going to look at some things I want to work on. So if you want to hang out here for a minute with me and listen to me process a few things, that's great. And if you've got better things to do, not in the least offended. And I'm somewhat speaking to people who know me in several contexts. And yeah, that's kind of something that I wanted to say is one of the words that jumped out at me when I started this particular YouTube channel was something that did come up in this little corner, which was the topic of framing. A lot of the people there speak to it directly in completely different ways than I would. I didn't know it was a topic that had been really talked about. So I started collecting and gathering my thoughts, picking little things and saying that I'm going to learn how to clip things from videos. That'll be one of my first skills to try and develop. And in doing so, I found that, boy, this topic's been hit on a bunch of times in the last few years by people who are framing it a lot from the psychological and cognitive theory type discussions that they're having around something that they're calling the meaning crisis. Well, they didn't call it that. I mentioned earlier, John Vervaeke called it that. He's one of the key players that they follow in this. So, and for those of you that already know all this, apologies. I have friends. So framing to me is something that is it's something that is already at least a 5 or 6 point list on things I've been writing while I'm at work and just kind of saying, what do you want to talk about and what does this mean to you? And I may still do a video all about frames and framing, a more detailed one, or have a chat with people about it just for fun, and maybe see if I can throw in some clips when I've learned to make them, or a little bit of personal visuals when I learn to create those. Meanwhile, I've been thinking about it in terms of things like the picture behind me. It's technically it's sort of an unframed picture. I have some unframed pictures. Frames that are apparent, according to other friends, seriously wanting in frames. And even though you don't see it as being framed for the most part, I know that this picture has a frame. My dad and I made it together. If I turn the thing around and don't let you see the picture, you can see the frame. It's not that interesting. But if it wasn't there, this wouldn't be hanging on my wall either. It's not the kind of thing I can throw up there without a frame. This is canvas. The others are mason board. And so big difference in what you can do with them, framed or unframed. And the other thing that came to my mind, no, you know what? I'm not going to try and rehash exactly, but I'll talk about the things I talked about in my practice run here. Words. I love writing, and I've got to be about, maybe there's 10 different Word docs opened in front of me. And one of the things that I was entertaining myself with, let's see if this one does it too. No, this is the one. One of the things that I entertained myself with sitting here was how I title things. And a single paragraph that I'll read to you. So the title goes like this: 2023, 0209, prep for formatting. In 2021, November 17, let myself edit the pre-gored version of copy of my every little thing edits. That's a mouthful, and probably a story in a sentence. So, anyway, the paragraph from somewhere in the current beginning, or near the current beginning of the memoir in this particular iteration is: a habit, entertain, focus on others, always away from me, don't focus on it. I've thought a lot about that moment, about life and death since leaving. I make light of it still. When I don't, I notice it scares people to hear some of what happened, some of the ongoing things that happened. I don't like that place. It makes it all too real. So I keep my sense of humor. I've read a number of iterations of my story in paragraphs, chapters, poetry to some of my writing groups the last few years. One of the things that really shocked me, and that I've since read in various essays and articles online from other people talking about trauma, things that happen, is the fact that when I would read, people would tell me it's too dark, and that I didn't like scaring them. So I would try very hard to follow their wishes and bring them something more light the next time. And a couple of times that I did it, it was sections like this where I'm just talking about life and about meaning and how I convey it to people. And they would still say it was dark. One of my earliest writing groups, one of the, actually several of the gentlemen in that group brought up the word dark, and they listed off several authors that they felt wrote a lot of dark material, but it was more it was kind of like the temperature, not necessarily the words, but the temperature, the tone of the pieces that they wrote. And they tried to convince me it's not a bad thing to write dark words. Dark words have their place. Light has its place. It's even before I started the memoir, just bringing them short poems. This would be a place that really challenged me because it meant I had to accept myself, the place from which I was writing and sharing things, and not simply judge it as good or bad based on other people's perceptions. Not try to be someone that I wasn't to present the things that I wrote. That's a challenge for a lot of writers. I've talked to a bunch of people that I know through the writing groups and through some of the courses I've taken who are like me and kind of bemoan that sense of, what do they call it? Not imitation, something like imitation, you feel fake because you're being you. That doesn't make sense. So basically, expressing reality and identity is one of the places that the more we are ourselves, the less we feel like who we are and want to be. Yeah, people, we're kind of strange creatures. So meanwhile, I was looking at some things. I have, oops, is this where I want to be? Yes. I have a couple of places that I have poetry. I've been listing myself as unpublished in some respects because for quite a while, because in some respects I haven't really submitted things. I have a lot of issue. I have a lot of issue making myself submit places. It probably goes to framing and the ways I frame myself. Meanwhile, I have one place I was writing that well, is one of those sites that lets you create in the space. You can just create poems there and encourage each other, talk to each other about it. And so, yeah, and I was noting that that I yeah, when I look at all the dates, the dates on the poems that I submitted here, posted here is more the correct thing, all seem to be 2019. Let me see if that's correct. Come here. When did you get posted? Does it tell me? Let's see if the comments tell me. Okay, that makes more sense. Because the poems that I've posted all say 2019. And the most recent comments are from spring and summer 2021. That kind of makes more sense. That would be when I had stepped away. And I basically haven't gotten back because I've been doing other things. Anyway, this is from April 5th, 2019. And it's just sitting here, and I will either, I guess, what I'm saying is I can read this online because basically a lot of places don't take pre-submitted, pre-posted, pre-shared poetry. So April 5th. I love the way the moonlight comes in the window, gently gracing the walls, framing it in tiny outlooks that draw my eyes from place to possibilities. It's ironic that I instinctively found myself this morning talking about frames and framing. And that's the poem that when I opened this site to look for things came up. I love the concept of frames and framing and being having possibilities revealed to me. And April 3rd, I wrote something that one of my writing friends, poet writing friends, said, not a poem. Nice words, not a poem. So it probably isn't, but maybe it is. April 3rd. Don't take yourself so seriously. It's a game of words. Yeah. So there's a few little hints at who I am, what I write, how I write. probably not yet why I write. A lot of that's going into memoir and probably just random conversations that I have with people. I talk about why I write a lot and how long I've hung out in journals and why I absolutely would not have a journal as a child. Somebody got me one with a little tiny key and lock that was attached to it. And when I did start writing and I pulled that out of a box and went back to it, the only things that I found there in this year-long journal were went to school today, did my homework. Today I stayed late after school to finish some art. I reported things that felt safe to report if anybody read it, but I did not write in my journal. And then, let's see, when I started journaling finally was probably around 2000, a little before that, late 90s. And there again, I wrote a lot about things I was reading, thinking, doing. I read a lot about scriptures because I was processing a lot of things about church, and both ways that some of the things that I was doing there helped me to connect, but also had me disconnect. So I was doing a lot of out loud processing into a book. And my first journals were basically duotangs that I pulled together, not knowing how long they were going to be, and just let myself write on pieces of paper and go from there, kind of like, yeah, I've got a binder. Actually, I laugh. I have several of these, and things like this, pretty much empty, except for a potential list of topics and things. And I have a big library printed out in something like 7 or 8 font because yeah, whatever, just because. And then I've got this, which is more of a bigger version of the hey, go with the duotang kind of approach to life. And and things I'm pulling from things, which kind of look like my title. Yeah, so a lot of my entries in various sources say from computer such and such, from gray book number 1, from this, and here's the page number, from binder number 2, da-da-da-da. Yeah, and yeah. Anyway, what does this thing say? This is going to go somewhere. Okay. Okay. The 2 in here is actually page 2. Yeah. So on the top right corner, in its one of 2 usual places of reference on any of my notes, B 2021.2. That's binder. I'm still here. How many times have I said it and had it said to me? I'm still here. For all the years and weight the world has thrown at me, I am still here. That is an accomplishment. Yeah. And that's kind of how I work life and how I'm going to do what I'm doing here. So I'm going to find my way back to the proper page, and I'm going to do it correctly this time and end the recording. So thanks very much for spending a bit of time with me and listening to me ramble.